so excited to have you. I know that we just spent a couple minutes catching up and reminiscing over the first time that we met. Um, I'm so excited for you to share one about your own story and what really launched you into the work that you're doing now, which is helping other people heal their relationship with food and movement. But the way that Gabby and I met was she was skeptical of OED Academy and investing in a training program. And Gabby and I had such a vulnerable, connective conversation the first time that we spoke. And I feel so honored that you trusted me with your training because you, in turn, added so much value, not just to OED Academy and me, but the other members. And I know they got so much value from learning from you. So we'll get right into it. This is Outshining Ed's How to Recover. There are so many statistics around people who can't recover or you manage this for a lifetime. And we don't have a lot of stories of hope and how to break free from it. And so I want to hear about your struggle, Gabby, and some backstory, but then I want to shift gears on how we move through this. So let me turn it over to you, Gabby. And maybe you could start by giving us some backstory into your struggle and how you got there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for saying all that because I feel the same way. I think that you are such a light, and just to be able to have a conversation like this with you, I'm so honored. And you lead with your vulnerability helps other people lead with their vulnerability as well. And I think that's such a big piece in coaching is really like taking your mask off and being able to be vulnerable and authentic. So I think having a space like this, and especially in the coaching and ED world, is so important in healing. But going back to kind of my story, my sister passed away in 2015, and that was kind of like a very turning point in just everything in my life. I was in college at the time. I was trying to go into a completely different path in terms of career, what I thought I was going to be doing. And I sort of turned to exercise and nutrition as a coping mechanism. And she also struggled immensely with her own mental illness, depression, eating disorders. So it's like the irony of that in my journey. But I started to go to the gym and I really loved it. And it became like an outlet for me. And I just sort of felt drawn to it. And I'm a very like all or nothing. Once I'm into something, I go all in. And I drank the diet Kool-Aid, and I dieted really well and I was really good at it. And I was getting the praise and the validation from it. And it became this like mask of armor in a sense. And I say, like, I got so far into it where it was like, I had hit my goal weight and it wasn't good enough. I was in the gym 6 or 7 days and it wasn't good enough. It was the obsessive clean eating, the dieting, the weighing everything out, the measuring your body, the taking photos. It's just so much. And it's easy to become so obsessive with it, right? And like I had a coach at the time. So I was struggling in complete silence. And I was also a coach, right? I was training people and I became a nutritionist. So I had even the knowledge and even I fell for the trap. So it's like, how can you expect yourself to know better when even someone that like should know better still really struggled? And I also saw it firsthand with my sister and I still struggled. So it's just to show, I think that like it's very real and you can logically know that it's maybe wrong or it's not serving you. But I think that people get so stuck and I got so stuck and just that like lateral movement of not knowing how to, like you said, move forward and actually make progress towards recovery.
Yeah, I mean, this is PSA to all the fitness coaches, health coaches, trainers out there, nutrition coaches, dietitians. There is a big, almost ruse. It's really hard to see that people are sick when they're doing the healthy things, like weighing
100%.
the food or counting the things. When you're in that diet culture, it's not frowned upon. However, it can turn obsessive like that. And we can quickly get into this sick mindset to where it's actually impacting so much of our lives and stealing joy and freedom from doing the thing. So I love that you're sharing, like, hey, I was in this world and even my own coach, like nobody really knew to what extent. And even Gabby listening to it again, because we focus so much of our conversations on your sister because she like the eating disorder took her life.
Mhm.
And so I think when I hear you talk, you're like, well, it wasn't that bad for me
Right.
because relatively it wasn't. But when I just heard you recount it, like you were in pretty deep.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it was very quick. That was the thing with it. It's like I just was plummeted in it because it was something that I was able to use as blinders, right? Like I didn't deal with my grief. I wasn't handling it. I was just going into work mode, busy mode, productive mode. And also I had like the narrative for myself that if I worked really hard, if I helped other people in the gym or with their nutrition and was just constantly giving, right? That would like make me happier again. That would make me fulfilled. That would take Amanda's story and turn it into something good. But at the time, like I couldn't even say her name. I wasn't sharing anything about her, right? So I was wearing a mask as well too with good intention, but I was absolutely in it. And like again, when you're in it and you're this role model for people, how do you say like, oh, I've actually been struggling for a while?
Yeah, with all that validation you're getting, how do you say, I'm hurting, I'm struggling, this doesn't feel right?
Right.
So what do you say, Gabby? Because you're in this unique position where you do value working out and strength and in eating nutrient-dense food. What do you say to the person who's struggling and they're immersed in diet culture, but also in the health world? Like they want to be healthy, they want to move their body. They're terrified if they recover or get well, that means they've got to give up exercise, they've got to give up eating healthfully and go to another extreme. Like, what do you say to that person that's struggling, but they're scared?
Oh, that I can relate to that. I mean, there's fear involved in so much of this, right? Like, I think the reason people don't recover so much is just solely out of whatever your fear is initially. But I would say it's like my motto is truly that I can be healthy and where I think like my approach to fitness and is just like if that were to go away tomorrow, if you were never to be able to step into the gym, if you were never to be able to have the meal plan to hold on to or have the protocol to hit, like who would you be outside of that? And I think to be able to use it as something that's an enhancer rather than something that like it dictates and it controls and it's just anything that I think you are holding on to, you are essentially chasing and it's not yours to keep, right? Like, and that's the biggest thing is I think we want it and we're going to raise that bar higher and higher and higher, but then you get there and it's just the goalpost constantly moves. So like looking at it and saying like the first time you lost weight, it was probably relatively easy because your body didn't know what really was going on and there was still that body trust. But as time goes on, that erodes, right? So it's like you're not seeing things clearly and you're basing all of your decision making on external things that are not even like conducive to what you're trying to do with the gym. Like I want to try to empower you to use food as a tool and to be able to go to the gym and really like enhance the quality of your life and put on the muscle, girl, right? Like be in there and feel good while you're doing it, but know that like you're giving yourself the autonomy and the decision making of what food is doing to enhance your life rather than just looking at it as like the blanket calories to restrict or to, you know what I mean? Like, how can this meal tie into the movement that I'm doing in an intentional, purposeful way?
So you said two important things that I want to repeat back because I found them so valuable. One is, who am I outside of all of this? If all of this went away tomorrow, who am I? It's a really important question. The second thing you said is, I can be healthy and. So can you fill in the blank for us and give us an example of that?
I love that because that's Christmas. That was yesterday, right? Which that to me is like an I can be healthy and where I went to the gym yesterday, and that would have been something I felt like would have used to have to be a calorie based workout or something very strenuous or whatever it was where I just had my movement, right? Where that to me is my healthy part. It's my outlet, it's my routine. It's something I'm not doing out of obligation or fear, where before it was out of obligation or fear. And then I can come back, have my breakfast. But you best believe I'm going to go have my cookie if I want it, or I'm going to allow myself to have those foods in the house and munch on them. Like to me, that doesn't say that I'm not a healthy person. That just says that I'm a normal person. And I am a fit, active person, but it's not your whole identity. So I think it's like being able to have those cores and those fundamentals and knowing again that like if it's yours, it's not going to go anywhere. And the cookie itself is not the issue, or you having the cookie sometimes is more I'm sorry, not having the cookie is more harmful sometimes than just having it. And I think it's a lot of just like breaking those limiting beliefs with yourself because again, like that's what diet culture has told you is you're going to gain weight if you eat the cookie. You can't do both. You can't have your cake and eat it too when like you really can. And cake
Yeah.
tastes good. Your body's not going to be mad at you for it and not magically gain weight. That's just now how it works. So I try to bring in a lot of like the nutritional science background of the facts of that to challenge you in that, right? Like to be able to sit with it and ask yourself just as much as if you were to have a protein shake, that wouldn't mean that you would lose weight or put on muscle mass. So one slice of cake is not going to be your end all be all. And because you are a healthy person the majority of the time, that's like the mode that you're going to want to operate in most of the time because that's our natural mode rather than you forcing yourself to be in that mode.
So, taking from what you said, I can be healthy and enjoy a slice of cake. I can be healthy and munch throughout the day. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
can be healthy and my body knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone listening, I think that could be a really valuable homework assignment. I can be healthy and fill in the blank for yourself for something that you know you need a challenge because healthy isn't physically healthy. Healthy is emotionally healthy. It's professionally, relationally, spiritually, all of the above healthy.
Absolutely.
Okay, Gabby, this is so rich. This is so good. Um, okay, two needle movers. For you or for some of the clients that you worked with, what are the two things you can look back at in your story and say, without a doubt, these shifted the course for me. When I did that thing, or I invested in that, or I saw that person, or this person said that my course changed. What were the two things?
That's a good question. I think for me, because I went through this so on my own, I always say like I almost had to like fail my way through it because I didn't reach out for support. So I think for me, what was so helpful was the book first was Brain Over Binge. And I think that just kind of like showed me that it wasn't me and that I wasn't consumed by it. It like really allowed me to see that it was just a part and it gave me, yeah, there you go. And it just gave me like at least a stepping stone into this world because it was so much stigma. And I was still, again, like my world was meal plans and macros and nutrition, and you're not sick enough and it's not that bad. And like you are healthy, so it's fine. So that book, like, just it showed me what was going on in here. And I like it really helped me just to be able to first like recognize that. And then I would say another really helpful tool for me has honestly been journaling. Like that was something that was just everything for me during my recovery because it allowed me to start to separate the true self from the ED self and like start to again like hear myself and then also recognizing when it wasn't me so that I didn't consume it or take it on as much and just being able to like identify the ED self and writing through it when I was feeling the urge to binge, right? Going and sitting there and writing and like seeing what comes out, I think was also very helpful just to get out of my own head.
And so I want to repeat Brain Over Binge, that book was transformational for you.
Yes.
And then journaling.
Yes.
Any specific type of journaling? It sounds like it was stream of consciousness, freestyle, any type of journaling that was helpful.
I think journaling to people is very intimidating to start out with because it's a lot of like, oh, what am I supposed to write about? Like, and I always say is get the smallest notebook that you can find and start with just one page. Like just give yourself one page just to see what comes up for you. But what I do now is I have my mantra for each day. So it's today's mantra, and it would be something that would be centered around what I was trying to do in my recovery. Right. So, and then I would do my gratitude. So, something that I am grateful for and then also like today I will. So it's today I will not binge and I will whatever it was that I was trying to set myself up for. And I think again, like writing it down and just really having that consistency of it held myself accountable because I know that that's what my true self wanted and was working towards. So if I felt like I was lingering from that, I could come back to that truth in my journaling.
And what I love so much, Gabby, is you're doing it now. You're still journaling and you
Yeah.
still have maybe a similar structure of what you're
Oh
doing.
yeah. I have it on my marker board.
I love that, but the content has changed. And so
Mhm.
the evolution of even looking back at your journals is just so powerful to see what changes and what moves. And I love that. I
Absolutely.
have my journal and mine's, it's blank paper, but mine is gratitude, prayers, 5 dream statements that I put in present tense. Like I live in this place or this is going on in my business, and then an I am statement. So
Mhm.
I love hearing other people's strategies. Look, these are nothing expensive, which is what I love, especially if you're like, I can't afford the therapist or the coach. 2 things that Gabby is suggesting right here.
Right.
Probably under $20. So, okay, Gabby, I think the last piece is advice or words of wisdom that you have for somebody who is stuck and isn't even sure that they can recover or that recovery is possible. I think if I take myself back to when I was really sick and in the eating disorder, and I heard 2 people like us being like, oh, you should just journal and read a book, I would probably shut my laptop. No offense to us.
No.
But there's such a disconnect from when you're in the pain and when you're free. So I want both of us to kind of go back to that pain. And things are hard when you're in it. And I know for me, I thought people like us were lying about freedom. Like it just wasn't possible. Or if it was possible, it wasn't in the cards for me. So, what
Right.
do you say to the person that stumbled upon this video? They're curious, but they're just not sure recovery's in the cards.
I would challenge that to say, like, if what you're doing is serving you and you can see where you're at with it, like, you wouldn't even be remotely curious or poking if you didn't have some sort of little tiny light inside of you that wanted more for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's truly how I felt because I would start to poke around. I would start to look. But again, I was skeptical. I wasn't sure. I thought, oh, they're lying or like they're not fully recovered. It's not possible, right? Like the belief of it, but I think it's really just like looking within yourself to see that like what are you trying to gain out of what you're doing right now, like truly. And if you're in a place where you're going to continue to live the rest of your existence based off of just being chained to diet culture, losing weight, whatever that the relationship that you're getting from food is, just to like really look at the root a little bit more to say like, again, like, is this really bringing me closer to where I want to be? Is this allowing me to be the person that I want to be in relationships? Where even if like you can look at us and think that we're full of crap, I think it's just to say that you want more for yourself. At some like just to be able to have that base point of you deserve more and that like you need to raise that bar and that standard for yourself is just like you owe that to yourself. And even if it's going to take time, even if it's going to not be right the first way, I think it's really just asking yourself like why do you not feel worthy to even like try? Because you've been so willing to go and do every other diet, to go do every other thing, to restart diets that have failed you even or have made you feel worse, have made you further away from where you actually want to go. So it's just to really look at it and say like why not try? Why not give it just your effort and just to do something different? You know, like I think it's just challenging the juxtaposition of that.
Yeah. You're saying, look, if you've made it this far and you're listening to us, there is a
Yeah.
curiosity inside of you. If you're Googling, do I have an eating disorder? There's something inside of you that's wondering how to get out of it. What's next? And then I love the second point, which is you've invested your time, energy into being sick, into the eating disorder, into the diets. Why not try the recovery stuff? Look, if it doesn't work, you can always go back to the diets. You know you'll be good at it. You know you
Right.
can do the eating disorder thing. Why not give it a shot? Right? Okay, actually, I changed my mind. I have one last question. I want to know, is there any advice, comments you ever got or that you know your sister received that were crap, that were
Oof.
it was not good advice?
Yeah, I mean, I looked healthy, right? And I knew that I was struggling. So I went to doctors, I went to different doctors, and I was told, you're fine. Like you're actually doing everything right. And I just remember being like, that is so crazy to me. That is so crazy to me because I felt like if I wasn't in the body that I was that looked and presented healthy, I would have probably been a very different conversation. So I like that to me was just a mind blown kind of a moment because I knew how I felt on the inside. And just to be like diagnosed based off of what was external, just again made me be like, all right, well, then maybe this isn't that bad. Maybe maybe I'm doing things the right way, right? Because my doctors are telling me like you're doing great. So it just sort of like reaffirmed what my coach had been telling me. And that's no shade to him either. right? But just again, that just gave me more praise and just made me want to tie more to it. And even with my sister, and she would go to outpatient, for example, like she wasn't the thinnest girl there. So there was more drive for her to continue in her behaviors because she wasn't the smallest or sickest person when she was going through her anorexic phase, I guess, because she had different waves of it.
To feel invalidated that you're
Yes,
sick and that you're struggling, especially when it's based on appearance, only serves to reinforce the eating disorder
absolutely.
voice. And so if you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you've heard comments, you've heard advice such as, oh, you're healthy, your lab work is normal, you're fine, your BMI is normal. That's invalidating. And,
Yes.
and we see you and we hear you, and that's a crummy feeling because you're not okay and you deserve help.
Absolutely. And I think she was at a point too in her teenage years, which are very formative, where her going through puberty and then naturally losing weight, right? And then people start to make comments, where I always say is like, it's if someone says, "Oh my God, Lindsay, you lost weight," what is the first thing that you say? You say, "Thank you," you
Mhm.
know? And if you've never received that type of just like dopamine from anyone and she started to get it, of course, all you're going to do is seek more of that. So I think it's also just recognizing like where she was at in her life. She was so like receptive to those comments
Mhm.
and it just drove her further and further, you know?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing about Amanda,
Yeah.
about you. Tell us about the work you do and where people can find you and connect with you.
I am so excited to say that we're going to be starting my second cycle in early January. So I do group coaching for fitness focused women who are struggling with obsessive dieting. If you're weighing your food out, I always say is when was the last time you were not trying to diet or think about dieting? And everyone kind of is like, dang, it's been a long time. And if you're struggling with restrictive eating and binge eating, any sort of just disordered behaviors that are no longer serving you, I really think that balance is possible. And I think for so many women, they do want to have both. They do want to go to the gym and they want to be able to have a good relationship with exercise. And they do want to eat quality foods and nourish their body and feel good, right? And be able to have the longevity of what we all should want to chase. And I think it's just trying to give people a different goal to work towards and just again seeing food as such an enhancer and such a privilege and luxury rather than just blindly consuming what diet culture has put on us and just like challenging that skinny identity. Like I think just individuality is beautiful and I think so many women just want to lose weight out of wanting to be validated or to feel sexy or whatever it is that you're chasing, but I think it's really like once you break out of that and you feel that freedom, that's what builds your confidence and your momentum to just do anything because you can come overcome so much more than you like realize that you can.
Okay, so fitness focused women who are pretty much always looking for or on another diet.
Right.
You have your group coaching program. It starts when? The next one?
It's going to be early January. I haven't set a for sure date yet, but it's a combination of one-on-one. So I have like their one-on-one calls that we do, and then we also have a nice group call once a week, and that is just everything. They help me more than I help them, I feel like.
I'd question that, but the community aspect is unmatched
Yes.
and so powerful. I highly recommend Gabby, the energy, just being in Gabby's presence. And what's so interesting about you, and I think unique, I've obviously had one-on-one calls with you. I've had group calls in OED Academy, but even through your Instagram and through this call, I can still feel that energy. And so I want you guys to go find Gabby on Instagram because if you're unsure, you're interested, or you want to check it out, just go follow her, look at some of her videos. She's such a real person, relatable, real, honest, vulnerable. And so please go follow her. What is your Instagram? And then I'll link it below as well.
Thank you for saying that. It's fit and free with Gabby, Gaby. That means so much to me because that's such a big shift that I've made. I mean, you know what world I was in before. I was training CrossFit athletes and doing the meal plans and the macros. And then the next day I'm like, hey everybody, I'm an eating disorder coach and I had an eating disorder and my sister did. So I just really appreciate that you've been in that journey and you can see that I really have been trying to show up as myself. So thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. Oh, I've got goosebumps. I'm so excited. I'm just so excited for you, period. And I'm so glad we got to connect.